You are now listening to the Going North podcast, where you'll receive tips and techniques to advance yourself. I'm your host, Dom Brightmon, and every week we're going to be hearing from an author who's going to share their expertise to help you charge forward in life. On a quick side note, be sure to check out Going North the book. It's available in ebook, audio, as well as paperback. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, we have, you guessed it, another author, but not just any author. This wonderful author right here is a mindfulness expert, and she has written the best-selling book titled Life Falls Apart, but You Don't Have to. Mindful Methods for Staying Calm in the Midst of Chaos. And I got to tell you, there's a lot of chaos going on around the world, and we have one heck of an expert right here that has a lot of experience that can help you find your true north, no pun intended. And you're probably wondering who this wonderful person I have. I have the one, the only, Julie Potiker. How are you today, ma'am?
I'm happy. I'm pretty happy to be talking to you. I feel awkward being called an expert because I feel like I'm just a seeker and a teacher. Like I'd like to rather be a guide on the side. But when they promote you, they want to say you're an expert. So you said it, I didn't.
Fun times. I like that. A guide on the side.
A guide on the side.
That's right. Getting you on the right side of calmness.
Right. So that's what I do. I try to teach people how to manage when they're feeling really out of control or even just a little bit out of control. Like, what do you do?
Well, you go stark raving mad, and then you ask people to fill in some dental cavities. So mind filling in some cavities where I may have missed some things with the introduction? Because I'm pretty sure there's parts of the story that folks want to know.
Sure. I'm happy to. I was a lawyer originally, an attorney, and then I became a full-time mom. And then I kind of walked through the proverbial fire of parenting and really needed to learn how to calm down because I was exhibiting symptoms of a brain tumor. The wrong words were coming out of my mouth, and a neurologist recommended mindfulness-based stress reduction. And that started my journey of all these classes and trainings and books and retreats. And I got my act together, and then I started teaching mindful self-compassion, and then I did some other trainings and folded them into that class because the brain science, the neuroplasticity, all the happiness practice and the gratitude practice and all that stuff that helps people manage their life with more balance is so helpful. And the classes became popular, and then I wrote a book so that I could reach more people, and that's kind of how it all happened.
Yes. Another caveat I forgot to mention that you're also a fellow podcast host as well.
Well, okay. So my podcast, I don't interview people, but I'd like to, and maybe my first interview, I'll interview you. My podcast is guided meditations, and they're free, and people can download Balanced Mind with Julie Potiker and just put in their earbuds and chill out.
Yes, a journey north, I imagine.
So I'm really far north right now. I'm in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, sweet.
I'm on San Juan Island in Roche Harbor, and it's gorgeous. And if you can't be mindful here, I don't know where you could be mindful.
Oh, man, indeed. Well, it was great that you were able to get cured of that brain tumor through some mindfulness techniques and to be able to overcome the trial by fire known as parenthood, especially nowadays in the new millennium where it's more and more costly to raise some children with not just the dangers, but also from a financial standpoint, especially creating your own business and writing your own book and publishing it, as well as staying in front of the media. So it's really awesome that you did that and still doing it too.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm having a good time. I have no idea where it's going to lead me. I'm just sort of hanging on and going with it. And I get to meet cool people like you.
Oh, yes, ma'am, indeed. Probably hanging out on one of those hammocks, aren't you?
Right now I'm on a sailboat.
A dream come true. Well, alrighty. Overcame the brain tumor through some mindfulness techniques.
No, it wasn't a brain tumor. The guy said to me, "You're just too stressed." So that's why he recommended mindfulness-based stress reduction. So it looked like a brain tumor in terms of symptoms, but after all the brain scans were clear, he needed to figure out what the heck was going wrong. And what was going wrong was I was having way too much stress. And I think people are walking around like that all the time.
Yeah, it's true indeed. You're right about that. As things go on and just going through life, and of course folks with the 9 to 5s, which is really sometimes 8 to 6, if not 8 to 7, and then fighting traffic and all of that jazz. It's really tough out there. A lot of folks are just stressed out and so stressed out to the point that they're committing suicide, which is not good at all.
I know. I was there once. I was contemplating suicide once or twice in my adult life. It's a bad place to be. I feel tremendous sympathy and empathy and compassion for the pain and suffering that those high-profile celebrities that just passed away, and for their families, but regular people are doing that on a daily basis, and it's tragic. And perhaps if they had more tools in their toolbox to help their depression, they had medication and a good therapist and a meditation practice, a gratitude practice, a happiness practice, all the stuff that I learned how to do that I teach, if they had all that stuff, maybe they wouldn't have gotten to a place of that much desperation. But I'm not going to assume that because everybody's so different. I just know that it helped me.
Yeah,
mindfulness meditation
right.
It's proven to decrease anxiety and to decrease depression, and it did do that for me. I'm a good test case.
Beautiful indeed. So through the mindfulness meditation, and that is probably would be the main thing that brought you out of that dark place of contemplating suicide on more than one occasion?
Yeah, I would say that, and having a gratitude practice. I know that sounds really bizarre, but science has proven that it works. If you write down, what am I grateful for today? What did I enjoy today? And it could be just one-word answers, but some people say to write down 5 things you're grateful for each day or whatever. But in any case, the practice is to write this stuff down, and it eventually makes you a happier person, because you're focusing on things that you're grateful for instead of ruminating and worrying. And the whole big deal about meditation and guided meditation is it stops you from worrying and from ruminating. And you're wired to ruminate and worry. That's because you're a primate, and that's how you stayed alive all these millennia and blah, blah, blah. And what all this other stuff does is it focuses your attention on something other than that. So it breaks the discursive loop of the bad, the bad, the bad, the bad, the bad, and puts in something good. And the more you plant and cultivate the good stuff, the happier your brain gets.
And you're right indeed, because like when you get on that bad train of just ruminating over and over again, just think of this one bad thing that happened and then think of another bad thing, and then it just keeps going into this giant chain of just bad thoughts, and just got to change that into something better through the mindfulness, which is awesome. So mind explaining how mindfulness rewires our brains for happiness?
I'm happy to. When you take in a positive mental state, like say you're watching the sunset and you say, wow, that's a beautiful sunset. What's for dinner? No. Wow, that's a beautiful sunset. And you stand there and you take it in and you let it fill up your body with the awesomeness of it, and you're watching the colors change in the sky, just that, taking in that positive mental state, that sense of awe, A-W-E, awe, lays down fires and wires, neurons, and lays down a positive mental state, and it turns it into a neural trait. That's called positive neuroplasticity. And the real incredible expert in that field is Rick Hansen, and he's one of my teachers who's written magnificently on this subject. He has 3 incredible books and a free newsletter, Rick Hansen. So I did his training for clinicians, and basically it's as easy as that. So anytime you have a sense of wonder or awe or a good feeling, let it land for a couple seconds, and you're rewiring your brain for more happiness and resilience. And when you're feeling really crappy, you can pull up a memory to do that. So that's one of my tricks. I'll pull up like a photograph, a memory of some sweet time in my life, and I'll push that positive mental state into my brain.
Huh. I guess almost kind of like a vision board, but in reverse, and you're just focusing on stuff in the past that reminds you of happier times.
Right. And make sure that you notice the good stuff. Like this morning, we were in this place called Stewart Island in the San Juan Islands. That's where I woke up, and I'm on a boat, and I had my coffee, and I was just watching the water. There was a light show dancing on the water, and I was opening up my ears to listen to the birds, and there were seals, and then I was looking around and feeling the air on my skin, opening up all the sense doors, and just really, really filling myself up with the awe of where I was. Well, that's rewiring my brain.
That's true awareness. Funny enough, that reminds me of a time where this older gentleman, a good friend of mine, he's very inspirational. He talked about the time how he went to Ocean City, Maryland, and he woke up as early as he could right before he could see the sunrise. And as soon as the sun came up, he started walking around the beach with his eyes closed so he could feel what it'd be like to be blind and see how they feel, and
wow.
to take in more of the sensations around him. So that's really amazing right there.
Wow, that's cool that he did that. I'm glad he didn't fall down.
Oh, yeah. He did it in the sand.
You know, seriously, though, closing your eyes, that's another trick. I do that when I brush my teeth. That's my mindfulness brushing my teeth exercise, where you're feeling the toothbrush on my teeth and on my gums, and I'm tasting the toothpaste and blah, 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 blah. And I do that for 2 minutes, and I'm focusing on it so I'm not ruminating and I'm not worrying. So all day long, you can pop into paying attention to what you're doing, which is mindfulness, and you're giving your brain a break.
Yeah, that's true. That's kind of a big thing that more people need to do. Heck, even me guilty as charged, when we're so overstimulated nowadays with our smartphones that are basically many computers in your hands that gives you access to the whole world. And there's so much stuff out there just vying for our attention, and we just can't really handle it all. We need to just give our brains a break.
Do you ever give yourself a technology holiday?
Actually, no. I probably need to do that more often. Never actually heard it called a technology holiday before. That's actually pretty interesting.
I just made that up. I just made it up. But seriously, I just wrote a blog on this not long ago. Like, why don't we try that? Why don't we pick a day, like a Saturday, and just turn everything off for, let's say, 2 hours. And if that's awesome, try 3 hours the next week, maybe 4 hours. And I know some people won't be able to do that because they need to be reached, so they'd have to figure out other methods to have somebody reach them if there was an emergency. Or if you've got little kids, you'd have to wait until they were asleep at night and do it, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, it's true. I might have to start implementing that, because I know usually sometimes when I go out to read, I may sometimes listen to music with the reading as well. I might just just stick with the reading and just turn off the music with it. Because I already don't answer the phone calls usually unless it's an emergency when I'm reading. So that's actually taking it to the next level. Technology holiday already.
I think we should patent it. What do you think?
Oh, yes, patented now. The Potiker patent.
It'd be a going north technology holiday.
That's right. If you're really going to ascend mentally, you must give yourself a break. Got to break off a piece of that Kit Kat right there.
That's funny.
Well, since you wrote an awesome book and published it, any advice for those who are looking to overcome their self-doubt and finally publish their work? Because there's folks out there who may have written a page or two, they may have written their whole book, or they just haven't written anything and they just need to finally jump in the water, metaphorically, and just publish it. So any advice would you want to give to those who need to get out of their scared zone?
Well, I would just say, like Nike, just do it. And the interesting thing is that the publishing world has changed so much. So I was assuming that because I had an agent that I was going to have a publisher, and it took longer and longer and longer and longer, meeting with these different editors and publishing houses and whatever, and I got some good advice from people to just self-publish it. I was overwhelmed by that idea. But eventually that's what I did. I went on CreateSpace.com. It's an Amazon company. And they make it pretty easy for you. And it's kind of like, why not do that? And then you get control over it. So I would just tell people to just do it. And with social media, that's one of the really good parts about social media. You can get your work out to people and you can help people. And the whole thing's been pretty fun so far. Tell people to go for it.
That's right. Kind of like playing Connect 4, go for it, right?
Yeah, I'm not in it to make money. I'm in it to help people, so I'm giving the money to charity. It makes me feel less awkward. Like I'm out with my pots and pans flying, but I'm not trying to sell snake oil. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
That was a bizarre image I just created, wasn't it?
The power of words, especially with a descriptive.
Well, my book has a lot of stories in it, and it also has all the techniques. And I think storytelling is really a time-honored tradition, and I love reading people's stories. I love other people's stories. I'm just fascinated by human beings and what they go through and how they get through it. So if anybody's got a memoir in them, or what I did was a mindfulness memoir, so it's a memoir and it's also self-help, which is a new genre. So I'm just making it so it's a new genre, because if you went into a bookstore, they wouldn't know where to put that. Is it self-help? Is it memoir? Oh, is it weight loss? Is it divorce? Is it, you know what I mean? Normally, is it parenting? They normally have to pigeonhole you. If you are in publishing, they have to pigeonhole you in one area. Well, if you just self-publish, you can be creative, and it can be whatever you want.
That's right. It could be an underwater basket weaving, right?
Right. To your listeners out there who want to write a book, if they write a book of good stories, people are going to want to read it.
Very true indeed. Very true indeed. So that's awesome. Does all of your book proceeds go to charity?
Yes, sir.
That is awesome. Any specific charities, or is it just a different charity each month?
It's just different charities. Like when I'm in the fall, I'm hoping to go to different book festivals, and when they sell the book, wherever that is at their site, they'll keep the proceeds. So if it's a community center or a church or a synagogue or whatever it is, they'll keep the proceeds.
Awesome indeed, awesome indeed. The power of giving back.
There's probably 20 really unbelievable teachers that I learned from. It's all about paying it forward.
Yes, ma'am, indeed. So speaking of books, I'm pretty sure there are some awesome books listed on your site. If you were to choose a top 3 out of all of them, which ones would they be?
Oh, my gosh, that's so hard. Well, Rick Hansen has to be, like, if you go to my website, I have this in the reading and resources tab. I have everybody else's books that were transformative for me. So with Rick Hansen, it would probably be Hardwiring Happiness, but it could be Buddha's Brain or even Resilience, his new one. And then this guy named Alex Korb, I don't even know if it's in my website now that you mention it. He wrote a book called The Upward Spiral that was unbelievable. And Brene Brown, oh my gosh, Rising Strong and Daring Greatly. And I did her class too, her online class. And also Rick Hansen's online class, his Foundations of Wellbeing. And then there's Dan Siegel. I mean, there's just so many really incredible teachers. Oh, and Emma Sapawa, who's young and kind of newer than the older group of people. There's some young neuropsychologists and neuroscientists that have entered the field and that have been writing really good books. And a lot of those people have good newsletters that are free also. I have all that listed on my website, Mindful Methods for Life, so people can find really good free resources on there.
Beautiful indeed. So if you were to go back in time and you were 25, but you were actually 25 in 2018, what advice would you give to yourself?
Wow. Follow your passion. Maybe that would be number one, because I probably would not have been an attorney.
Gotcha.
Because that was not my passion. Remember to pause, P-A-U-S-E, stop, pause, listen, try to take in the good.
Kind of glad you spelled out pause, because I was going to make a bad joke about bear paws.
That's so funny. I was thinking about dog paws.
Even better.
That was a good question. I was never asked that question before. That's an excellent question. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure indeed. Yeah, like add a different dimension to that question, because a lot of times folks usually like to say, if I go back in time and do it all again, oh man, I'd be a threat. But what would you do if you were actually in the current year with all the technology that's available nowadays? How would you fare off? What would change?
I wonder what it would be like.
No, it'd probably be great to be a millennial.
The millennials get a bad rap. I have 3 of them. all three of my kids are millennials, and they're different. They get a bad rap, but I think the one thing they have going for them is they're looking for work-life balance, and they're looking for purpose and meaning. I just knew I needed a job to pay my rent. I wasn't looking for meaning. These kids, that's what they want, and that's a good thing.
Darn straight it is, because you never know. Without the kids, you probably would have never had the story that you have today.
Well, that's for sure true, right? We're all the combination of all of our experiences. It's like a big patchwork quilt.
Is quilting part of your self-care?
No, but I respect it. My mom actually taught me how to knit once. Well, she tried, and I was just a horrible failure at it. I just failed and failed. It was when I was on bed rest, when I was pregnant. She thought it would help me pass the time, and I just didn't have the patience for it. You got to know what works for you. I like to paint, though. I have patience for that.
Ah, beautiful. I think you're the first guest that actually talked about their painting. That's awesome. I think you're the first one that actually paints. That's awesome.
There's a lot of beauty up here in the Pacific Northwest. I'm taking photos, and I'm going to paint a lot of the landscape up here. It's incredible.
Beautiful indeed. Will that go on the website soon too?
That's a good idea. I never thought of that. Maybe I'll do that. Have a section for images. Thank you.
My pleasure indeed. Heck, you could even add it to the back of some of your media photos. Be like, yeah, the mindfulness is real in more ways than one.
Do you meditate every day?
I try to. One of the main things I like to do is to just sit down and be quiet for at least a good 5 minutes in a chair when I get up in the morning and actually give myself time to do it. And it's really, really powerful because at one point when I first started and did it for a good 3 weeks, it got up to around a good 30 minutes a day. And when I fell off the wagon, it was hard to get back on, but bit by bit getting back to it. So it's really powerful. So I do a form of it.
Oh, that's excellent. Maybe this conversation will solidify your practice. And if I can recommend, when you get up in the morning, think about what your intention for the day is going to be, and then start your meditation. Think about your intention for the day.
Kind of reminds me of Wayne Dyer.
Yeah, may he rest in peace. Do you want to be calm today? Do you want to be centered today? Do you want to have patience today? Do you want to be happy today? What's today going to look like? And then start your sit. And for people that are listening, they can just put in earbuds and listen to somebody taking them a little ride. They don't just have to sit there watching their thoughts and feelings and emotions, because that's difficult for people.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, they might not get the best of it, and especially if they've been on the planet for a couple of extra decades, and they just maybe picture some bad moments like, oh, I don't want to start a day like this. Where's that news? There we go. Yeah, let me look at other people's pain and not focus on my own.
That reminds me of something, the news is terrible. So I don't watch it.
Amen. Well, all right, for those who want to keep in contact with you and listen to all of your wonderful guided meditations, where can we keep in touch with you?
My website is www.mindfulmethodsforlife. So it's mindful, MINDFUL, methods, METHODS, for FOR, life, LIFE.com, mindfulmethodsforlife.com. And my email should be on there. I'm sure it is. Julie at Mindful Methods for Life. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has. They can find other people's books in my book, and people's podcasts and newsletters and all kinds of good, healing, healthy stuff in one place.
Woohoo! Well, there you have it, folks. Going ahead and head over to that wonderful website and drink in all the wonderful mindfulness goodness.
And I will add you to my gratitude practice today. I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to talk to you.
Woohoo! Glad the feeling's mutual.
Hey there, buddy. Looks like you made it to the end of this episode. Since you made it to the end of this episode, do both of us a favor and stop being greedy. Stop it right now and share this episode with your friends and your fellow podcast lovers, especially those who have book clubs and want to listen to the authors who write some amazing books. Be sure to check out the rest of the backlog too while you're at it, and share all those too. And in order to make the rest of your week the best of your week, remember to advance others, to advance yourself.